Hi all, I'm Al Deldegan, the creator and producer of the Libby podcast. This 100% volunteer-run show was born out of the Rainforest Alberta movement and features incredible people who are leaders, innovators, and have big ideas.
This episode is hosted by Rea Hailley, and it is the 8th episode of her new series. Today, her guest is Roxy Querouz. Take it away, Rea.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rea Hailley, co-founder of New Idea Machine. We help businesses save 30 to 50% on subscription fees with custom app development. Welcome to 5 questions and 1 wild story, fempreneurs to watch for. Today's fempreneur to watch is Roxy Querouz. Hi, Roxy. So excited to chat with you.
Hi.
Okay, Roxy, tell us, what is it that you do and why is it important?
All right. I am the founder of Morpho Corporation. We offer fractional operations support to small businesses. I'm industry agnostic, so there's no specific industry that we work with. I'm also a early stage microbusiness advisor. That's a new thing, and that's a small part of our business. But fractional operations is really the key to that. And so helping business, we know that there are a lot of businesses out here that need help. They are needing help across the board with no clearly defined roles. And they don't have the funding for a full-time person, nor do they even have the work for that. So they're always left to hold the bag and hold 30 different bags, and that can be taxing. But you know what? I'm here to provide option C and say, hey, you know what? You don't have to do it alone. And so I come in as a partner and work under the umbrella of the company. So it's not like an external partner, and it doesn't cause any confusion with clients or vendors of any sort. So we just integrate into the business and help them where it's needed, and then I'm gone.
And can you give us an example of, the kind of impact that your help has on a business?
Significantly. I think it in a subtle way. So a lot of people don't realize that, they have 100 things that they need to do. Oh, this only takes 5 minutes. Let me do that. Or, this one only takes 20 minutes and it ends up being an hour or so. And that's an hour or so of your day every day. And so it adds up. So we're looking at, 15, 20, 30 hours a month. That's 30 hours a month of your time that you could be doing something more impactful to your business. Mm-hmm. This could be something also that you're doing things that you don't want to do. We're small businesses. There are things that we love to do, and there are ones that you kind of have to as part of our business. And a lot of people would rather, I think that what they do is they procrastinate. They don't get things done. Next thing you know, it's 6 months later, or even worse, there are ones where you're not actually processing orders, you're not dealing with your clients, and now it's impacting your business. And so my impact is just right there, being kind of like a right-hand person that comes in. We have a scope of work. This is kind of what I need you to do. This is no clearly defined role, and the scope is pretty wide, so that can be as little or as much as one chooses it to be. So that could be as simple as dealing with customer services or looking at permitting, doing, financial planning or any of that sort. So that's kind of where I come in, and it makes a big difference because now that people have time to pursue what they like, which is usually talking about their own business to other people. And that's what, that's really the beauty of that. And then on top of that, some people have time to spend with their families, which they usually don't because this is a small business. Everything eats up their time without even realizing it. So that's kind of where I'm proud of that, being able to give them that breather and knowing that I'm a trusted partner. I'll help you out. We'll get things done. You get to go do what you need to do.
Yes. I love that they get to spend more time with their family, because everyone knows an entrepreneur, small business owner, most of your time is consumed running the business. You really don't have a lot of time for family time or personal wellness or vacation for that matter. So that's really amazing that they get to lean on you and have some of that breathing room.
For sure.
Now, Have there been times that you wanted to quit being an entrepreneur? And if so, what kept you going?
Say that I had that moment that I was like done with it. Actually, that's a lie. Maybe there is. There was one time. Okay, so there was, but I think it's financial. So running your own business is exciting. You've got freedom. You make your own choices. You don't have to get permission from anyone. However, it's tough. Number one, getting credibility, getting visibility. And more than that, it's financially difficult. So unless you have money in the bank, a buffer that pays for all of your basic needs to keep you going in a business, or you have a really supportive partner that will help you through that, it's really, really hard. And so I went from working full time, pretty much my whole career. And then at the time when, this shift happened, I was earning six figures to down to nothing. Like it was hard. It was number one, it was a learning curve. My life turned upside down. At first it was exciting, like, oh, I'm free, I can do this and all that stuff. But when the bills start to pile up, when the pressure comes on, you're like, oh, okay, is this even worth doing now? I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Or is this plan even going to work? Because I always hear about, lots of businesses try something and it doesn't work out and then they quit, right? And so there's that little question in the back of your head, like, okay, is this one of those? So I've had those moments mainly because of financial pressures, but still here.
Yeah, yes. And thank you for sharing that, Roxy, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily talk about that. You are right. It is very exciting. It's very freeing. You get to build whatever you want. You get to follow your heart and your gut, which is amazing. But there is that financial pressure because you don't know how long it's going to take for that recurring income to start coming in dependably. And, will that be consistent or will that be spotty? You don't know. And you're right. You have to have a buffer, not just in the beginning, but I think even when things start to pick up, just to cover you when you do when you do hit those lean times.
Yeah, for sure. And, you can pursue all you want. You can throw all your time and energy into it, but the bills don't stop coming. The groceries are still expensive. I was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine what that's like. And on top of that, especially when you have family, I don't have kids. I have a little dog, but it's kind of like my kid, but I can imagine people having children and that they have to prioritize the children's needs. And it's a tough choice. It really is a tough choice to be able to do that and pursue. And then also thinking about, is this the life that I really wanted? You go into business thinking that I'm going to have the life that I dream of. And then you go into that, certain phases in that business pursuit, thinking, okay, this isn't exactly what I thought I was going to be doing. Or not where I wanted to be. And so now you start thinking about, okay, am I going to have the quality of life that I want doing what I'm doing now? So, and that has to be a realistic question, right? Like it has to be a honest to God to yourself. Forget others. You don't have to justify yourself to anyone else. Maybe your spouse to a degree, if your funds are together. But for you, it's like, because as innovators and dreamers, you're like, your heads are in the cloud. Like, yeah, no, I love this business. I know I'm going to do well. I'm going to do all of it. And that's great.
Yeah.
And that's needed for you to keep going. And that's what you check in on when things get tough. However, you also have to be realistic about, okay, do people even want this service? Do people want this product? Is this even going to sell?
Mm.
Do I have enough to fund me going forward? Not only just for my own basic survival, but for the business. Like my business is services, so minimal, investment in that regard. But if you're selling products, now you're buying for the, raw materials and packaging and whatever broker fees that you're paying. That's a lot of money. So unless you have that or have some idea of how you're going to get it, you have to be realistic about the situation. And it's okay to be realistic about that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what's the point if all you're doing is suffering for that little dream, right?
Yes. And I think part of entrepreneurship is having those really difficult conversations with yourself, like those brutally honest conversations of what happens if the money that I'm counting on doesn't come in? And what happens if the clients I'm counting on don't sign on? What's my plan B? And I know some people say, like, don't have a plan B, burn the ships. But
I heard that too.
realistically, you have to have a plan B. Because you're right, like cost of living keeps going up. It's not going down anytime soon. And if you want to have a roof over your head and food on your table, you have to have money coming in, and you have to make sure that your finances are in order. Yeah. And like I said earlier, not enough people talk about that. Like that's the harsh reality of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And, there's the middle ground there is have a full-time job while you're building the business. And that's kind of really the ideal portion of it. And depending on what the business is. But people have done that. They've done that transition. They have those middle ground. But it's really, the point is you want to be able to get to a point where you are making right decisions, good decisions, whatever that path is, right? Because when you are in survival mode, when you're now in the back of your mind, oh, I don't have enough to pay the mortgage, I don't have enough to pay for groceries, I don't have enough to pay the insurance. Now you're going to start making decisions based on desperation.
Yes.
And not on that, right? And so, as you come to a point where you ask yourself, is this a decision I would have made if I were comfortable? Or is it, and if it's not, then you start to reassess, okay, why am I doing this? Even if you are going to do it, and but at least you have to be very aware of why. And then knowing that, okay, I'm doing this now because of this, therefore I'll get through this but I will change that for the next situation, or to at least to avoid that where you can, of course.
Yes. Yep. Good point. Okay. Now, what are people most surprised to learn about you?
That I'm not from Canada, I think. When I first moved here 15 years ago, nobody asked where I was from, because I think it's the accent. I already had a Western accent. So the people just assume I'm from here. And even prior to that, when I was based in the Middle East and I would travel, I went to Europe on a tour, I was young. And people would always ask me, which part of US are you from? They would just never assume that I'm originally from the Philippines and I'm and from the Middle East. So I think that would be the main thing, that I speak my national language fluently. I think that's one of the other ones.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't have known that about you.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not something I think about a lot, but I've had those instances that people just are like, oh, they didn't even think about me being from somewhere else. It's really what it was. I'm like, yeah, I'm not Canadian, so it's just funny.
You are now.
Yeah, well, technically, I'm Canadian by heart, but I took my time applying for my citizenship. It just wasn't really, I have my PR, and so it's mostly the same thing. And I took my time for a very long time, and I'm still a Philippine citizen, so it's going to be a dual situation. So it's not something that, again, that's kind of top of mind. Like, I'm here, I deal with people, I'm from Canada, I love hockey, the weather is great. Like, I'm very much Canadian at heart already, just not in paperwork.
Yeah. What advice would you give other female entrepreneurs?
Connect. Reach out to people, be open to connecting to everyone. And not just within your bubble. Be mindful and be intentional about connecting to people outside of your own network, outside of your bubble, so outside of your industry, outside of your city, outside of whichever. And, being from the Middle East and coming here, you get your little pockets. And that this is, I know was harder back then because you didn't really have social media. Social media kind of took off a little bit later. But, being in certain, especially being in Vancouver, it's a small, it's not as big as it likes to pretend it is. But the industries are small. Everybody kind of knows everyone. Even, when you start going to different events, you start to see the same faces. But when I was at a point where I'm like, okay, what do I want to do for myself? Kind of exploring starting a business, etc. I started going networking and more so in in LinkedIn. I'm just like add, like, and they're like not in my network. I know I connect with people from Disneyland and connect with people who are in, which is great because I'm a Disney girl, and I was like, so exciting. I love these posts. And from every industry, like I know a lot of you from, across the border in the US, and I have people that I know in Europe or Australia, and random. You'd look at their account, it had nothing to do with you. Add. Because for me, it's like, how do I open my mind if I'm already in the same box and I'm playing with the same people in that box? So for the last year and a half, it's been huge. Just getting to know people, getting ideas, thinking differently, knowing what the struggles behind it in different industries. I've had all these little meetings online that I was on a call with someone from Ireland. There was one from Italy, and there was and so it's just like it's really amazing how eye-opening it is when you have that conversation. Well, last week I had a conversation with somebody from Ukraine. So she was kind enough to do it at her evening, and it was morning for me. But just knowing, like, okay, one is we're really not that different, or two, you're learning something different from there. And then, okay, well, how do I apply that to my life, and how can I help them, and what can I contribute in that regard? So for me, it's networking. Keep an open mind. Don't buy into trends. That's another thing that I would like to say. Social media trends, whatever that trend may be, whether it's a product or it's fun or it's political or whatever it is, don't. Learn to think for yourself. You do all your research, do all your connections, be genuine, build relationships. It's not about transactions. It's very transparent when you're talking to somebody and they just want something from you. And some people it works. For me, it's a put off. I'm not there for that. Because for me, I take that away with me. Like, like now we're talking to each other. We're talking about me and what your business is like and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be talking about this for a while. So, and to others. And so I think that's really kind of the best part. So always be open, always learn, and trust yourself. Sometimes, another thing too is imposter syndrome is there, which I try not to use those words anymore, but it's more so with women, because women are, they tend to be perfectionists. Like everything has to be exactly right, and it has to be this quality, and it has to be this standard when it really doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's, you just wing it. Things seem larger than they are. And also we are perfectionists, but also we are hardest on ourselves when we don't do things right. So
yeah,
be kind to yourself, I think, is really another one. I'll close with that.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. Give yourself permission to be imperfect and to mess up and fall flat on your face, because that's when you have the greatest growth opportunity. And you gain so much from failures than wins.
Yeah. And that's where you actually learn exactly that. You learn the most when there's a mess up. When you make a mistake, because when everything is perfect, you're just doing things mechanically, not thinking, because everything is easy. Everything seems great until something messes up. Like, oh my God. And now you're racking your brain. You're out of your comfort zone. But then that's also, exactly, that's the room for growth. That is where the really growth happens.
Yes, without a doubt. All right, Roxy, what's your one wild story?
I think, so I went to Mauritius with my sister. We used to travel a lot when I was based out in the Middle East. It was so much cheaper to travel, to be honest. I kind of missed that. But anyway, we went to Mauritius. It was a beautiful island. We were there for about a week. We tried to explore as much as we could. One of them was going to see the lions. And I don't mean going to see the lions behind a cage. I mean, we went in their enclosure and hung out with them for a little bit. So when I say wow, because at the time we weren't really thinking about it until right when we got on the bus, they pick us up, we go down to the sanctuary, and then before they let us in the cage, they gave us a paperwork to sign. to make sure that, we wouldn't sue them if anything happened to us. And this guy who was giving it to us had a missing hand. Don't know if they were doing that on purpose just to freak you out. But, when he heard us, his one hand was missing, and then he handed this document to us, and the other was like, okay, you need to sign this. Like essentially don't sue us if anything, if you die in there. And my sister and I looked at each other and we were like, okay, yellow, let's just go for it. So we did. And I was in the enclosure with 5 lionesses. And I remember I have a photo of the lionesses standing on a huge branch right over my head. I think there was like 4 or 5 of them. They were looking at me. They were looking at the next field where there was a deer and like an antelope, and they're paying attention. But, and so you look, you do those things and you don't really think about how wild that is until you leave unscathed. And I was like, that wasn't the wisest decision. So I think that was, but it's my braggy story. So I do that.
Okay. So I'm guessing this happened when you were quite a bit younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that. I was I would say early 20s for sure. And, you're kind of like, I'm from an Asian family, and, my mom was pretty strict and always kind of like, I would say some would even say overbearing and all that kind of stuff. But, when you get that moment where you're away from your mom, like, oh my God, I'm unsupervised. The opportunities are endless. And then you go and do stupid things. And you're like,
yes.
I don't know. I don't know if I would do that again now. And I don't know if it's just Asia, grows the fear of God in you, but it was still like a brag moment, right? Or,
yes.
When I was holding a python, and it was like, and people were like, oh, what you did? What? I'm like, dude. And, but now they're like, I don't know if I would. So.
Yes. Yes. Okay. That is a pretty wild story. I think that is probably the wildest, wild story that I have heard yet on this podcast.
Oh, really?
Awesome. Yes. Well, we had somebody that got run over by a life-size metal unicorn. And that one had that one won for sure for the longest time. But I think your wild story, maybe it's a whole other category. Yeah, I don't think we've had anyone.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you'll start, as you develop these series, you could categorize all the wild stories, because I've been in an accident too, where I was, and so, all this front teeth are all fake.
Oh my gosh.
I was in an accident, smashed my face. And so,
oh my gosh.
Sorry for another day.
Yes. Yeah. No kidding. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wild story and your insights with us, Roxy.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Roxy as much as I did. If you're a fempreneur and would like to be a guest on the podcast, please reach out. I'd love to speak with you. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Why not become a podcast host yourself? Libby is a community podcast, and we would love to have your voice as a host or a guest. Check out show.libby.ca for more information, show notes, and links for every episode.
This episode is brought to you by New Idea Machine, a unique blend of a tech incubator and a software development powerhouse. We're not just building software, we're crafting the next generation of homegrown tech wizards. Got a project in mind or looking to hire fresh talent? Reach out and let's make tech magic happen. Visit newideamachine.com for more info.
Music for the show was created by Tony Del Deegan.